Evening, everyone. 2 minutes late. That was me just checking everything. I've got it all down for tonight. It's going to be a fun one. We've got Megan Oliver, who I've known for about 15 years since I first came to Sydney, and we worked together previously, and now we work together again now. You know, Megan's one of the longest serving female tattooers in Sydney. She's got a great story, and I'm going to invite her in now, and we'll hear about the amazingness. So let me just type this in. So yeah, also tonight, if anyone wants to ask any questions, free to do so. It's going to be a good one. And yeah, thanks for joining us again. So yeah, we'll see. Hi, Megan.
Hey, how you doing, Rhys?
Good. Yourself?
Yeah, pretty good. Hanging in there.
Nice. How's your lockdown been so far?
Oh, look, it's been pretty cruisy actually.
Yeah.
Last lockdown, I did a little pandemic pivot and I started a mask making business just to keep it.
Yeah, yep.
And you know, that's come in really handy because we've all been wearing masks for so many months on end. But this time I was like, no, I'm gonna sit there sewing all day. I'm actually just gonna kind of relax and do some painting. Yep. And in between the two lockdowns, I actually bought a couple of canoes. So it's been really nice because I live right next to what is known as the Cooks River. I prefer to call it the Gulayari River, which is the proper Indigenous name, which actually means Pelican River. And you can actually see the pelicans, you know, around doing the thing. So yeah, I've been chilling out, canoeing up and down the river, which has been really nice.
Yeah, cool. I think I saw on your stories the other night you were doing one on sunset.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing. It must be so peaceful.
Oh, it's actually beautiful. It's beautiful. I mean, it's a very polluted river, but it's still like a lot of negative ions, and it feels really nice. And I go out there and I'll take a garbage bag in the canoe and just pick up some of the rubbish from the river.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's
yeah, awesome. All right, so like we've known each other for about 15 years. We've worked together previously and now together at Little Tokyo. And, you know, I've always had so much respect for you, Megan, and a lot of fun over the years, you know. And like I mentioned before, for, you know, my love of tattoo history, you know, you're one of the longest, you know, female tattooers in Sydney. So it's going to be interesting, I think, for a lot of girls out there and people in general, just to hear your story and your evolution. So to kind of start off with, what was your first ever tattoo?
Well, I got it from Mark Lee in London, who is the guy who was kind enough to open the door for me and teach me the basics of how to tattoo. It was a couple of lizards eating each other's tails in like a figure eight, like an infinity sign, and it's on my arm, so it kind of like an armband. It wasn't really intended to be an armband, but that's just how it sits. I get tattooed for years and years and years, but because I was a little art snob, you know, I have a degree in art history and I went to art school, and you know, I was kind of like pretty fussy. But when I met Mark, wow, this guy's an amazing artist. His tattooing is just primo. So I was like, yeah, please do a tattoo for me.
Yeah, cool. How did you go? Because you're from New Zealand. How did you end up in London?
Well, I was sort of trying to find an in to the tattoo world. I'd come out of art school. I was working in various art jobs in the print industry. We were doing stuff like putting together glossy magazines by hand. That really dates me, doesn't it? So you'd use like hot glue and scalpels to actually put together a magazine by hand. It's sort of like the art industry.
Grassroots.
One of the Walkman, you know, like really old technology that doesn't exist anymore. So I was doing that job, and I was like, oh, I really love tattoos. I'm fascinated by tattoos, but it's like a secret world in those days. And I just don't see any sort of way in there. You know, coming from art school, I looked at it kind of like how I thought of Renaissance art, in that it was techniques were sort of handed down from master to pupil, and that wasn't common knowledge at all. There was quite a mystique to it. And the other way I saw it is a bit like the Renaissance art, is that if there were any women involved, if you heard about them at all, they tended to be either the daughters or the wives of established artists. And because I definitely wasn't that and wasn't going to be that, I was like, oh, how do I, you know, I'm fascinated by this world, but how do I get in? So I started hanging around tattoo shops in Auckland, like annoying the tattooers in Auckland.
Yeah.
And mostly they either just ignored me or told me to piss off, because also I was quite sort of shy and like, how do I talk to these people?
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I will head off to England. Like, my parents are English, I have English passports. So I thought, you know, the worst thing that happens is I don't have any luck and I'll just do a tiki tour of Europe.
Yep.
But when I got to England, I was fortunate enough to meet Mark Lee. I started going around in London, and yeah, he agreed to take me on as an apprentice. So yeah,
Yep.
really fortunate. Thank you to Mark. Thank you to the tattoo goddess, without whom I'd probably
Yep.
be a bad.
Yeah, but in that time in London as well, like when I went there, like years later, I knew of Mark Lee, and he's a powerhouse. You know, he was
Yeah,
very influential. But it was on Portobello Road, wasn't it?
that's right. That's right. So
Yeah.
how to hear about it, I actually got a job in an art studio pretty much as soon as I arrived in London. So I was sitting there one day listening to the radio, and I heard this guy being interviewed on the radio, and he said, "I'm the best tattooer in England." And I was like, "I've got to meet this guy. This is, you know."
Nice.
So I went down there, and it was Mark Saint from Portobello Road.
Yes. Yeah.
I walked into the shop. I was so excited. I was like, "I'm going to meet the best tattooer." I walked in there. I was so excited, and then I went, "Oh my god!" And I just sort of walked one and walked out again.
Disappointed.
I was so disappointed. I was like, "What am I doing in this country if this guy is the best tattooer in the country?" You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so I walked a few more 100 meters down the road with my friend, and she said, "Oh, look, there's another tattoo shop down here." And weirdly enough, another tattooist, also called Mark, working on the same shop, but they couldn't have been more different. They were like chalk and cheese.
Yep.
So, yeah, I just stumbled upon Mark's shop, and he was like a young guy doing amazing tattoos, a tiny little shop, it was all white tiles and really spick and span, everything properly clean and sterile, and just beautiful artwork, really clean. Like, I actually hadn't seen anything like it before. It really blew my mind at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So how long were you with Mark in London for? And I guess you went through all the usual apprentice things of making needles and cleaning and slowly progressing.
Yeah, what I would have to do is get there first thing in the morning and, you know, do the sterilizing, make the needles for the day, mop the floor, clean the shop. It wasn't very hard, to be honest, because the shop was so tiny. It was probably about 2/3 the size of the bathroom at Little Tokyo.
Yeah.
So it really was a pretty easy apprenticing gig.
Yeah.
And my mum had insisted that I learn to type. I think she sort of envisaged for me that I would be someone's secretary until I got married, but I was like, oh, no. But that's still was good, because I actually got a job as a solicitor's secretary 2 days a week. So I was able to support my apprenticeship. I was in the tattoo shop 5 days and 2 days being a solicitor's secretary.
So yeah, a lot of sacrifice to go for it.
Yeah, well, you know, like, I lived in squats in London because I wasn't really making much money, and I mean, it was a hard time, but it was a fun time, you know.
Yeah. So what was sort of the clientele base back then? Because Mark's a cool dude, so I imagine the London scene was changing. So you might have, I'd like to think, some more progressive thinkers.
Oh, look, it was a really interesting mix of all kinds of people. I mean, Portobello Road is a pretty happening place to be. Every weekend it was like packed shoulder to shoulder with people from all over the world. So, you know, you got a huge range of interesting tourists from all over the world. We would see tattooed people with tattoos that we'd only seen in magazines or in Tattoo Time. You know, they would drop in to say hi, and you'd be like, wow. Tattoos in real life. In those days, you still saw tattoos on travellers. You didn't see them. There was no internet. There was no Instagram. So you either saw it in a magazine or you saw it on the person. So yeah, it was fun. There was a record store right next door, and they always had like really cool music playing, and you know, a really solid crew of friends that were always hanging out. So it was a tiny shop. It was always really, really crowded. And literally what I would do is I would squeeze in there behind Mark, and I'd actually hop up on the bench and sit there behind him, and I'd like watch with eagle eyes while he was tattooing, watching. I must have watched hundreds of hours of tattooing.
Amazing.
Like, a tattoo. It must have been really annoying for him.
No, I don't think so. He would have told you otherwise if it was, you know, and I'm sure he's super proud. So from London, what happened next?
Well, I went back to New Zealand. I was there for about a year or two, and I actually wanted to set up with a friend of mine called Lisa Napier, who we had both started out with like kind of homemade tattoo machines.
Yep.
Which I had one of these things, but I was kind of scared to use it because I could see it was really, there was no way you could sterilize it and it was kind of nasty. So I just had it stuck in my luggage and never used it. Became a bit of a joke around the tattoo shop in London with Mark. But when I got back, I wanted to team up with Lisa and start our own studio. It was just really hard going in those days. We're talking like sort of 1994 in Auckland in New Zealand, and just I don't know, maybe it's still the same now, but in those days you're trying to rent a studio, you're trying to rent a shop, and as soon as you say the word tattoo, the landlord's like, oh no. So it was really, really hard for us to find premises, and it wasn't easy going. And I actually ended up back working in an art job again, which I was really pissed off about. I was like, I just want a tattoo, and I'm back working a straight job the way it is. Eventually I did end up, I had my own little studio, a private studio in a sort of disused office block in downtown Auckland. And I actually be a doctor's surgery. So it was pretty good. And I tattooed about a year, just doing real little tattoos and sort of starting off stuff. But I still felt like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And I would like to work with someone more experienced who could help me out when I get stuck, So about this time I heard of X de Medici in Australia. And I think I saw an article about her in a magazine, and I had a friend who had moved to Sydney and was writing me postcards constantly going, oh, you got to come over here, it's really great, like the scene here is great, the party is great, you're going to love it. I had no desire at all to go to Australia. I'd never even no
emails back then?
No emails, it was postcards. Yeah, it's great. So anyway, my friend said, all right, look, come on over. I said, okay, get me an appointment with this woman X de Medici. So my friend, who was quite enterprising, she got back to me and she goes, look, I've got you not just an appointment, but a job interview. And I went, oh, okay.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool. I think she was pretty keen for me to move over to Sydney.
Yeah.
So I went over there and I met X, and I was just like, oh, she's just such an incredible person. Of course, I showed her I had a little skinny portfolio full of beginner tattoos.
Yep.
She's like, yeah, come and work with me. So I was like, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So did you move to Canberra, or were you in Sydney and commuting?
No, or Canberra, because that's where her studio was.
Yeah.
As soon as I got there, I was like, oh my God, what have I done?
You're at the nation's capital.
I know.
The cultural hub of Australia.
I actually started off living in Queanbeyan, and I was like, oh, what is there here? There's like a red rooster and not much else. And I'd get on a push bike and I'd ride like about 10 Ks to the studio every day and back. It was quite intense. And what I hadn't really thought about is that X's studio was, it's pretty remote. Like, Canberra's a city, but it's kind of like a rural city.
Yep.
And her studio was a total custom only studio. And like, I didn't have a client base. I didn't even know anybody. So there wasn't a lot of work. Like, I was learning a lot, but I was just doing little small tattoos because she was really make sure I didn't sort of run before I could walk.
Yep.
So yeah, I was kind of on the bones of my ass a bit in Canberra. Like I'd eat at the soup kitchen, I'd live in a co-op house, but I just hung in there because it was such a cool
what an opportunity.
Yeah, it was amazing. And just to be able to see how X worked, and like I learned a lot from her. And she's an incredible artist. Now I don't think she's tattooing much anymore. She does these incredible, huge, intricate paintings that are bought by state galleries, so she's
she's amazing.
Real artist.
Yeah. How long were you with X for?
2 years.
Yep. Okay, cool. So good stint of time.
Oh, it was. And it was great working with her, but I remember thinking, Canberra, what do? I'm just riding my bike around. So I'd sort of hitchhike up to Sydney most weekends.
Yep.
And eventually X was like, oh, you know what, we're going to close the shop here and we're going to open a shop in Sydney. And I was like, yeah, awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. It didn't actually happen.
Yep.
Because I think she really loves Canberra. So she just decided to stay there. But
she's still in Canberra now?
She's still in Canberra. She's still in Canberra
Nice.
and working away on her art. And I mean, everybody, I recommend Google Esther Medici and check out her art. It really is quite mind blowing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she said, look, go and work with Kiwi Kim, until I get there and set up the studio.
Yep.
So I did that. I went and asked Kim for a job, and she's like, yeah.
Amazing.
So I was working at the Celtic Dragon.
And on Enmore Road.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's when, prior to that, Kim had been with Tony at the Illustrated Man for years. And the Celtic Dragon was like a new, sort of progressive, groundbreaking shop in a way.
Yeah.
Sort of Newtown. I don't think there'd been many shops there. And at the time, Kiwi Kim was like the flavour of the month. She was like world famous, a lot of great tattoos on her and doing amazing work and a really cool crew, which you were part of.
Yeah, it was super cool. No, I remember I saw Kim in, I think it was Outlaw Biker Tattoo Review when I was in London working with Mark. And he said to me at the time, he said, oh, when you go back home, you should go and work with her. She looks really cool. And, a few years later, but that is actually what ended up happening.
Yeah, amazing.
So yeah, they were really good times. We had a really good crew. Like I used to work the Sunday shift, and I'd work with a guy called Michael, who I'm pretty sure quit tattooing and became a doctor.
Yeah, I've heard this story. Yeah, it's interesting.
Really good bedside manner with the clients.
Yep.
He was super. But he would put his machine down. He'd start getting so into the chat that he'd put his machine down, and you'd have to say to Michael, put the pin to the skin.
So Newtown's always been like an alternative sort of area. Was it still the same back then, just on a small scale?
Definitely. I think even in those days it was more alternative. I think over the years it's become gentrified. It's kind of beiged out a bit now.
Yep.
But in those days, yeah, it was really neat. Like I remember the first few people I tattooed when I got to town. I tattooed Nikki Majaja, who is Doodad and Fandango. I think she was one of my first ever customers. I put a little cherry on her boob. And I mean, what a cool first customer. I was like, I'm going to love this town. And I think
meant to be.
Another one of my early customers was Hannah, who is a really good friend of mine to this day, who's like a super cool tattoo chick.
Yep.
So yeah, it was a really great place to be. The other person I worked with in the Sunday crew was Gary Mooney, who really, I heard has just passed away recently.
He's a legend.
Yeah, total legend, and I learned so much from him. Really, really good guy. So really sad news. And I remember his son Matty used to come in after school in his school uniform, and we'd all get a ride home together. And of course now, an incredible tattooist in his own right.
Right, I know. Matty's done exceptionally well, and but what a teacher and what an amazing man Gary was.
Oh, 100%.
Who else was there at that time? Because that shop had a lot of great artists there. Like, I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to think of the counter girl. She used to be, work for Lal Hardy in London back in the day. She worked for Kim for a period of time. Maybe not when you were there, but also Josh and Nathan were there.
Yeah, I think I just missed Josh, but I worked with Nathan Puata, who is an incredible artist, really good guy. I think I just missed a guest spot from Bernie Luther that kid had, which would have been fun because I met Bernie in Vienna when I was in Europe. So I got to hang out with him and Klaus Fuhrmann in their studio in Vienna, which was a really cool.
Klaus was the first guy. I went to the Berlin convention in 2000. He was the first guy I ever saw. He would do an outline and shade and then move up and outline and shade. I'm like, what? This guy's doing it wrong. And I'm like, no, I'm just like a little Aussie backpacker. What do I know? And I was like, wow, so you can do this. You can break the rules. And, those guys, as far as Europe went, were groundbreaking of, breaking out of the traditional biker mold of tattooing.
Yeah. No, it was a real eye-opener to hang out in their studio for a few days. I'd actually never seen anything like it. It was like really sort of free-spirited, people doing really psychedelic tattoos and just really... So, there was also Trish was there and Claudio from Italy was there.
Yep. Yeah, cool.
He later came to work with us all at Innovision.
Yep. So what was your sort of lifestyle then as well? Like, because you've always been involved in the party scene, and
Yeah.
were raves big back then? Was that a crossover into tattooing, or?
A little bit. It was kind of funny because sometimes I'd go out to rave and then I'd turn around. There's Kim. Oh,
Yeah,
hi.
yeah,
But really, the rave scene kept me going a bit more when I was in Canberra, because there's one thing that Canberra does really well, and that's like a bush doof.
yeah, yeah,
So but as soon as I got to Sydney, I just hit the LGBTIQ scene, and it was
yeah,
just a terrific scene in those days. I mean, things have sort of quieted down a little bit now
yeah,
because everybody meets online and people don't
yeah,
go to parties much anymore. But in those days, the Mardi Gras was really something else, and the sleaze
yeah.
ball. And I think the second year I was here, I actually did the sleaze ball poster. So that
Wow.
was fun.
That'd be. I hope you've still got a copy of it somewhere.
Yeah, I've got like a small copy that was on the back of a magazine. I don't know where the
Yeah,
original. I actually did like colored pencils, and it was huge, but I have no idea where the original is.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, there used to be a really great sort of subculture party scene as well,
yeah,
and I hang with a crew of women who actually started up their own burlesque club.
yeah.
So what happened was I was tattooing all these women, and they started to get so heavily tattooed that they couldn't work a regular straight job in a strip
Yeah.
club because
Wow. So like the pioneers of the current movement.
100%. And
Yeah,
I'm hanging out with these guys, and Glitter Supernova's like, oh, we should start
yeah,
up our own strip club, and we'll call it Girlesque. So it's
yeah,
like a burlesque but for girls. So that's what we did, and that was just amazing. It was like beautiful, amazing, funny, political, sexy performances of all kinds. Sometimes you'd have someone might have been stripping for 20 years, and then the next person would be some little punk rocker on stage for the first time ever.
yeah,
So it was wild times, wild variety, and I got to
yeah.
tattoo a lot of people. So it was really, really fun. And of
Yeah,
course, I ended up on stage doing performances myself. Like
yeah.
they say, hang out with doctors, you become a doctor. Hang out with strippers, you become a stripper. So I did great sort of
Yeah,
arty performances,
yeah.
and I did collaboration performances. You came to see me do the performance with Yorgo.
That's
That
right, down the back of the rocks, I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was down in Woolloomooloo.
Woolloomooloo Wharf, yep, yep. Yeah,
So
you've done so much cool stuff over the years, Megan.
yeah, it's been really fun. So
Yeah,
he asked me, he said, look, I'm going to do a performance, and I want you to come and tattoo my nipples black.
yep,
And I went,
yep.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
he made,
I think I'd just been in Sydney maybe a year or two then, and
yeah,
like by no means, I've got a pretty good take on life. I'd lived overseas for quite a few years and everything, but through you, you cracked open the door for me to a different part of Sydney, and it's always been just so much fun and inclusive, and pushing the boundaries, and just amazing.
yeah, look, really great. Like I've been lucky enough to be part of it's more like a family called Club Kooky,
Yep,
who've been
yep.
doing queer parties in Sydney since 1995.
Yeah, wow.
Like it is for queers, but anyone's welcome as long as
Yep,
you're mellow. And I
yep.
know you came down to a couple of those recently and had a really good time.
Yeah. I think we even one of our shop Christmas parties,
Yeah,
we ended up at Kooky one night.
for sure, for sure.
So yeah, it's crazy. But you've done a lot with Kooky. I think even just recently, didn't they do a night at the Opera House and you performed
Yep,
there?
yep, absolutely. So
Was it on the trapeze?
we were on the trapeze. That's right.
Yep.
So Sarah, my wife Sarah, makes a chai for Club
Yep.
Kooky. She's a chai legend.
Yep.
They said to us, look, as well as doing the chai this time, do you want to actually be on the trapeze? So we went, okay, cool. We rehearsed for a couple of months. And
Yep.
then a bit of a high point, actually. There we were at the Opera House. Beautiful night. It was part of Vivid, so there's lights everywhere, and we're flying trapeze, really fun.
Yep. Yeah,
So
amazing.
supposed to be another one of those. It's just been cancelled, obviously, because of the lockdown, but it'll probably happen September, October. And, that crew are so solid. It's just such a loving crew, and they've been going for years and years, and the music is so good.
Yep. Is that where your love of Goa trance comes from?
Oh, look, I like so many different kinds of music. Yeah, I mean, I went to Goa in India, but I actually fell asleep under a palm tree. I never went out to a party.
Got
Yeah,
sold the wrong pills.
yeah. Well, I just fell asleep, missed the full moon party. Oh well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've been through India with Sarah a few years ago. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Look, we do meditate together, and we did a little pilgrimage to visit all the different places of the Buddha, like where the Buddha was born and where he got
Yeah,
enlightened, where he taught, and that was just a really beautiful experience. And I'm so glad that we did it when we did, because the
yeah,
people are in a terrible situation now, and I can't
yeah,
see that traveling, who knows how
yeah.
long.
Who
We were,
knows? Like, they keep dangling the freedom pass, potentially 2023, but who knows? But and anyway, let's talk about something a bit more exciting, a bit
yeah.
more like upbeat. So I looked on your link tree tonight on your Instagram, and it says with Kooky you've got something coming up. I think, is it Kooky Creatures?
Oh yeah. Kooky Creatures. That was like a crew who get dressed up as artworks
Yep,
at the Opera House gig.
yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We
Yeah,
also
nice.
did an art show just at the end of the last lockdown. We did an art show which was all UV art.
Yep.
So that
Which
was
you've painted before.
oh yeah, it's horrible to paint with, but I mean it looks great when it's all lit up, but it's
Yep.
yucky paint. But we did a bunch of artworks there, and we filled up the Red Rattler, and people would come in, and that was like a nice sort of, reintroduction to society.
Yep. Yep. Cool. So let's jump back onto tattooing for a little bit. So after you finished up with I remember there was a bit of a transition from a lot of the crew from Kiwi Kim's shop at the time went over to Innovision. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Nathan went to Innovision, and
Yep.
I wanted to go to Innovision too, because I saw the tattooing that Cliff Clayton was doing and the tattooing
Yep.
that Colin was doing. I was like, wow, these guys are
Yep.
where it's at. But I was like, oh, I know it's only a small shop, and Nathan's gone there, so there won't be any
Yep.
room for me. So I actually went and worked at Steel Lotus for about 6 months.
Okay,
But
cool.
yeah, it was an interesting time, but I didn't want
Yep.
to stay. And
Yep.
I thought, what if I go and talk to Cliff and say, look, I'll just do the little tattoos that the boys don't want to do. So I went and said, oh, Cliff, I'll just come and I'll just do like little tattoos. And
Yep.
it's really like years later, when I was still working at Innovision, he'd come up and I'd be doing like some big back piece or something, and he'd have his little joke. He'd go, I just do small tattoos.
Yeah. So I remember that must have been what, early 2000s?
Yeah, it was. I think I was at Steel Lotus during the Sydney Olympics, and then
Okay, cool.
not long
What
after that,
was,
I started at Innovision.
considering like Brisbane's just got the Olympics, what was the vibe in the city like when the Olympics were on?
It wasn't great. To me, it was just like roadblocks made it hard to get around. Doctors constantly circling over.
Wow.
And somebody actually asked me to do an art collaboration. It was Fiona McGregor, the writer. We did an art collaboration where I drew pictures of like all the mascots, but with like dollar bills stuck on the echidna and stuff like that. So we had a little paste up. We actually had a little project. But anyway, I went to Innovision, and yeah, Nathan was there, Josh was there, and Adam Kraft was there at that time.
Yep. Yeah, that was in the photo that you posted up on your Instagram story.
Yeah, that's right. The old crew. That was before that. That was when it was a small shop on Burke Street, and then where that was taken is when it moved to the Green Terrace on Crown Street, which is where you came in.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. Correct. Yeah, I came down, I think, 15 years ago, whatever that is. I got bad maths. And when I came down there, we were still in Terrace House. Yeah. And it was, I'd been on the Gold Coast, and to come on in, Sydney then was still pretty, you had the Cross, Illustrated Man, us at Innovision, Kaleidoscope. There was still nowhere near as many shops as there are now. And
big hands.
Yeah, like I think now, for example, say Surrey Hills would have to have 60, 70 tattoo artists working in that locality. And I think back then there was maybe 10, and then there might have only been 20, 30 in the whole of the city sort of thing. So it was a different time. But your work, even when I came back then, Megan, always stood out to me as like your own sort of, and correct me if I'm wrong, the way I see it is your own twist on traditional. There's a lot of color, you know, a lot of female images, a lot of amazing flower work and pin-ups and just super exciting, happy tattoos.
Well, that's thanks. That makes it sound really amazing, and that is kind of
It is
what I aim for, like kind of solid, colourful, traditional, but with a
Yep.
little twist on it, little modern twist. Like
Yep.
some tattoos that I really admire is like Valerie Vargas or Greg
Yep.
White, Greg Gregeltron, somebody who's
Yep.
you know, beautiful tattooing, but with a nice sort of humour to it as well.
Yep. Yep.
Or El Monga with a sort of bat head, traditional, but really,
Yep.
really just a little bit of humour.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure you got tattooed by a Spanish guy a couple of years ago when you're at the London convention. Is that correct?
Yeah, El Barra.
Nice. They've got such the coolest names, don't they?
Oh, coolest name. And I call him El Barra, but when I heard his Spanish friends coming over to talk to him and they're like, El Barra, I was like, okay, that's how you pronounce his name.
Like you didn't say El Barrio.
I know, right? But solid traditional work, really, really nice.
Yeah. So when you did that trip, I'm pretty sure you went with Sarah as well, and you went to the London convention specifically, and then afterwards you went to a tarot card convention in Europe. Is that correct?
We actually visited the Tarot Garden, which is
about
an hour out of Rome, and it's the whole thing is a big sculptural artwork. And Sarah had been wanting to visit there for many, many years, and it's an incredible artwork. I'm trying to remember the artist's name. It's Nikki de Saint-Phal. It's incredibly psychedelic. And I mean, I just tagged along. It was really Sarah's trip. But when I got there, I was like, whoa, this place has really got something. It's an amazing vibe to it. It's just a beautiful place to be. So that was
on that trip as well. I know you also met, I hope I pronounce her name right, Vivian Lazonga.
Yes.
Like what a legend.
A total legend. Like it was, I think, most beautifully tattooed woman in, I don't know, 1980 something, very early.
I could be wrong, maybe by Cliff Raven.
Oh, I think it was Ed Hardy that did her
Ed Hardy, yeah.
Sure, but she's a total legend, and I'd been aware of her for years. So to actually meet her in person was really, really nice. And Sarah had no idea who she was, but she mentioned to her, they were just having a casual conversation. She mentioned to her that she was a tarot reader, and Vivian was like, oh, I'd love to have a tarot reading. So they sat down in the booth. It was actually Alex Binney's booth. They sat down and Sarah did a tarot reading for her then and there. And I was like,
oh, there you go.
Vivian Lazonga.
So crazy. And I'm pretty sure after that, on that trip as well, you went and got tattooed by Philip Liu.
Oh, that wasn't that trip. That was a few
another
years.
one.
Yeah, it was another trip.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
Oh, sure. So, you know, ever since the days in London, I'd been aware of the Liu family and just thought they were pretty much the pinnacle of tattooing. And when I hung out with the Fuhrmanns in Vienna, of course, Klaus Fuhrmann had been, you know, he'd sort of been learning to tattoo shoulder to shoulder with Philip. So I was really to get there one day. So eventually I actually made a booking and went over to Switzerland, got tattooed Philip, and you know, he was just such a nice guy. He's a real sweet guy, totally humble, and just also somebody who wasn't afraid of his feminine side. He was just a really cool guy to relate to. Some couple of guys came in wanted to interview him for a magazine while he was tattooing me, and he was like, yeah, I have to ask my mum.
Amazing. Yeah, I've met him a few times, and he's got such a easygoing nature and calm, and gives you the time of day, is interested in tattooing, interested in what you're doing or what tattoos you've got or where are you from and all this sort of stuff. Definitely like the tattooer of our generation.
Totally.
You know.
Yeah,
so.
that was like a real bucket list thing to actually go.
Sorry, 1 minute, Megan. My
Yeah.
cat's stuck in the cupboard. It's meowing. I've got to let it out. Also, you got tattooed by Mick of Zurich. Can you just tell the viewers about
Yeah.
that?
Oh, you
Oh.
know, you got pussycat. So, yeah,
Hey, what are you doing? Oh,
when he came to Australia, and it was at
here he
Dynamic.
is. I got him.
Look at him. He's so big and handsome.
He's a big boy. Yeah. So
Melbourne.
yeah, Mick did that green dragon on your arm, didn't he?
That's right, he did. And like, I know he's a dragon master, and I love his dragons so much. And I
Yep.
know he's an amazing freehand tattooer. So I thought to myself, I'm going to watch really carefully what he does and really try to take in exactly how he does it and see if I can learn something. And I want to see, like what kind of special pen does he use, to draw it on. And he just picked up a biro off the desk, literally drew it on with a.
Yep.
I went, oh, okay, there's no magic trick. He's just amazing.
Yeah. And I think we were working together when you had that done. And I think Mick come and hung out in a shop for a bit with Clay Decker around that time. And you went down to Melbourne and got it done at Trevor McStay's shop, Dynamic. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So who else have you been tattooed by over the years? I know you had your chest done recently by Mayo, but prior you had some work done in San Francisco. Is that correct?
I actually have a bigger chest piece below the one Mayo did, which was done by Utaro.
Yep.
At the time, he was working in Brain Drops in San Francisco.
Yep.
That was a great experience. Just one whole day, boom, done. And
Yep. But had you booked that one in?
I hadn't. I just was in.
Was that like like the best walk-in ever?
Totally. I was in San Francisco, and every time I go there, I just get the tattoo fever. I'm like, oh my god, I've got to get tattooed because all the tattoo culture there was so amazing.
Yeah.
And I was looking around there, and he goes, "Oh well, I've had someone cancel for tomorrow," and I went, "Oh yeah," put me in the chair. So there it was. How's the cat doing?
So I'm just, because like you just touched on San Francisco, like back again from our generation, like pre-internet, Facebook, MySpace, Instagram, like this was the Bible, tattoo time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, by Ed Hardy out of San Francisco. And San Francisco was such like a melting pot. I think because of the gay and lesbian community, all the hippies, everyone was just, it was like counterculture. And it was just sort of just progressive thinking. And it enabled a lot of tattoo artists to do some amazing work and push the boundaries that then sort of filtered off through the rest of America and the rest of the world.
Yeah, definitely. It was an incredible place to be. The first time I went there was in '94 on my way back to New Zealand. And it actually was mind-blowing, the work that was going on there at that time. There's a whole, as you say, like a whole revolution just kind of bubbling up. Yeah. And those tattoo times, Mark sent me off to get them. Do you remember the bookshop in Camden where you could actually buy tattoo books?
Yep.
Because then this is pre-internet tattooing. Like we were so hungry for any information. Whenever I went to a new town, I'd go to the library and I'd go and look up T for tattoo, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, there's 2 titles," and you go to the shelves, they would have both been stolen. So it was really, really hard to get information. So the first book I ever got was that Sandy Feldman Japanese tattoo, the big photo book.
Yep.
It was absolutely amazing, mind-blowing. And then I got the tattoo times as they came out. Just so interesting because I just had no idea. Tattooing something that just has always kept expanding, ever since I was in it, it's like a fractal thing. The more you go into it, it's deeper and deeper and more amazing. I had never imagined that tattooing could be what I saw in Tattoo Time. And now when I look in those tattoo times, it's really funny. It's sort of like, when you grow up in a house and you go back to that house and you remember it being really huge and now it sort of feels quite small. It's exactly like, because tattooing has become exponentially even more incredible and just even more exciting a field to work in. So I think we're really,
100%.
really.
But even like, along that journey, like I think, but even back then, that hunger and that enjoyment and you're having your mind blown, I'm still pretty sure, and I hope a lot of younger artists still feel that now, that joy of, now it's a different thing. We used to wait for a new book or a magazine or something, where now, even though everything is so instantaneous, like I know someone will find something and they'll just share it to their friends and so the excitement we're just flooded with.
Oh yeah, a snowball roll.
inspiration now.
I don't think it's ever going to stop rolling and just getting
No.
big.
No.
But it's really funny because I remember working with X in Canberra, and this would have been like probably 97, and she used to quite gloomily, she'd go, "Oh, this is it. The wave is crested. This is it. You know, this is never going to get bigger than this." And every single year, it just keeps on keeping on getting more and more incredible.
Yeah. It's nonstop. It's nonstop. So also, Josh did your back piece, didn't he? Josh Rowlink.
Yep. Josh, and they do call him Jackhammer Josh for good reason.
I've never had the pleasure.
Yeah. Absolutely beautiful tattooist and beautiful artwork. I had that done at Tattoo Dharma.
Yep. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
So you've done, talking of like, progressive tattooing, you've done a hell of a lot of stuff, and like you're tattooing a young gentleman at the moment. Just one of the ones that pops to my mind. You've done the big tree on him. He's getting all the crazy color stuff. Like for me, color is such a strong point of your work. Would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah. I love color and putting different colors together and seeing how they work together. And Henry, the guy you're talking about, is just an amazing client. Like he came in for a couple of little pieces, and he's just kept his deposit going. I go, "Okay, so do you want to use your deposit option?" No, I'll come back and get something else. And
I'm pretty sure he's there every 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's not scared to get like really wild colors, and it's just a really passion.
Yeah. So what are some of your, I know you love input from your clients, but what are some of the favorite things that you love to tattoo yourself?
Oh, such a question, isn't it? I do love pin-up girls and botanicals and animals, traditional with a twist. But I do, you're right to say that I am pretty steered by the clients, because to me, tattooing is a collaborative art form. And, because that person's going to wear it for the rest of their life, I feel like it should be at least 50% their thing. I know there's collectors that like to go around and collect, oh, this is what this does, so I'll get that. For me, really, ideally, a tattoo should be at least 50% about the person who's wearing.
Yeah, I think that's the springboard for, design and for, creation, collaboration together.
Exactly. So I'm like, look, just tell me where you want to go and jump in and I'll take you there. But, don't try and grab the steering wheel or anything.
Yep. So with all that, like, does your partner Sarah have much input? Because I know, aren't you currently designing her next tattoo at the moment in lockdown?
We got a couple of them on the drawing board, but see, now you're going to get me in trouble, Rhys, because
deliberately,
like the wife with the leaky toilet,
Yeah.
Part of tattooist always has to be like back of the queue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty nerve-wracking tattooing your partner, because you're going to have to wake up and look at that tattoo for the rest of your life. So you want to make sure it's right.
Yeah, 100%.
But we do have a really fun project going on, and we're calling it the Tarot Tattoo Project, because Sarah is a tarot reader.
Yep.
There's 76 cards? 78 cards in a tarot deck.
Right.
And, it's just such rich, beautiful imagery.
Yeah, amazing imagery.
Decided that she wants to get all 78 images, or our interpretation of those images, tattooed on. So far we've done, I think, 6.
Oh, you got time,
So yeah, I'm really getting the hard word to start cranking out a few more, which is, lockdown's great for that. I've got time.
Yeah, you've been doing quite a lot of painting on this lockdown, haven't you?
I've been trying. I mean, hopefully we'll do another art show when it's all over.
Can I be bold, Megan, and ask, are you in your little art space?
I'm actually sitting in my living room.
Okay, cool.
Want to have a little peek at it?
If we could, please. Yeah, it would be great, because I think it's really interesting. It's interesting for me as an artist, but I also think of, of just collectors and whoever's viewing as well, and creatives in general, to just sort of give us a little rundown, and maybe if you can even show us a couple of paintings you've been working on, please.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, I'll show you this one.
Yeah, cool.
It's sitting on the mantelpiece right now.
Oh, no, good size. Wow.
So that's the red Dakini. And she was actually based on a tarot card. I didn't realize until after I'd done it that it is actually the 8 of fire. And as you can see, it's some fire in a figure 8.
Yeah.
And then after that one, I did a much smaller little one, which is just a little cat.
Yeah. Sorry, the big one previously, did she have roller skates on?
She got roller skates on.
Yeah, can you do a close-up and just the slow pan across it? Like, so what's the technique you've used there, Megan? Like, are you using watercolor? Are you using acrylics?
Yeah, it's a bit of mixed media. Like, I started off using just watercolor, and then I thought, I'm going to give it a try with a resist.
Yeah.
So I painted all the flames first with a resist.
Yeah.
And then I kind of ruined the surface of the paper. So much of this rubber resist on it, when I was peeling it off, I kind of ruined it. So I ended up, it's a bit mixed media. I ended up with a bit of acrylic on there too. But
I'm just going to ask while you're walking, like, you're not known for doing a lot of prints, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to ask, is that something that you're going to potentially do as a large scale print, limited edition run?
Could do.
I think
that's
so.
what Sarah said too.
Yeah, totally.
But, here's my little art space. I don't know if I'm angling the camera right.
Yeah, amazing.
So,
amazing.
You can see I've got like a huge number of books, which are probably not all that relevant anymore because, you know, everything's on the internet nowadays. But
no, not really, Megan.
It's got a good reference library, which I think you can always find better images from your reference library than on the internet anyway.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the one. What's the Tibetan book, the yellow one?
Oh, the encyclopedia.
Yes, yeah. That I remember you had that when we were at working together at Innovision. And the big, I think I'm probably going to say it wrong. Was it the big Celestial art books?
Oh yeah, the Celestial. Yeah, I've got that one.
Yeah, like and back in the day, they were gold.
Yeah. Amazing. And that the Robert Beer Encyclopedia is pretty priceless.
Correct.
Yeah. Actually, one of my favorite books I've got is the Flash from the Past, which Ed Hardy put out, and it's all traditional tattoos. I think he put it out in the early 90s, and I bought it in Agent in Canberra in the mid 90s.
Wow.
And that's like gold. Like, people would love to get their hands on that. And in 2007, they did a total redo where all the young tattooers reworked all those pictures and called it Revisited. So, you know, that was the whole thing of traditional tattooing coming back up again.
Yeah. So with all that said, like, you know, you've had like a long and varied career, and you've worked in so many good shops and around so many good artists. Like, you know, how was the Sydney scene, you know, when you came and worked with Kim compared to now? Like, there wouldn't have been that many female tattooers compared to these days. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I'd say you're right. I mean, Trish was there and Kim was there and I was there. But yeah, I mean, now there's just so many great women tattooers. Not long after that, Claire Clarity came up, and I really like her work. I think it's really, really clean. You know, it's not just technically clean, but it's beautiful, clean designs, like really saying the most information with the least amount of kind of fuss, which is something you learn in comic book art and is ideal for tattooing as well. There's just so many. I mean, we've got Som working with us who's an incredible artist. There's sort of almost too many to think of. There's Eddie Lou who's doing amazing things. It's never ending now, and there seems, you know, like there's a big shift. It's almost, I think it's almost coming up to 50-50 male and female now, and if not, it's not going to be far off. You know, even look at the shop, you know, we're all working in together. We'd have to be close to even numbers. And it's a great thing. It's a good. Anything, like, we've got probably about 8 or 9 minutes left. Anything you want to particularly talk about, or if anybody wants to ask any questions out there, now's the time. We've had so many comments come through, and I didn't want to interrupt you, Megan, because you're on such a good roll. So anything you want to talk about? I think somebody asked who was the name to Google when I was talking about X, and it's X de Medici. You have a look at some of her artwork, it really is incredible. Gosh, what else to talk
X was a groundbreaking tattooer in her day, I think.
Yeah.
Would that be fair to say, because she had some sort of art background or a vision and wasn't confined to the structure of a traditional tattoo shop?
Absolutely not. No, she came up in a very different way, because she was a graduate of art school and she was an established artist. And then she decided to go off and learn with Carrie Barber in California. And she actually got a sponsorship from the Australian government to do that, which a lot of people in the tattoo industry were like, oh, no, that's not how you learn to tattoo. So, you know, she was always a bit of an outsider. Like, I've always felt like a bit of an outsider in the industry, and she's even more of an outsider. I mean, it's quite interesting. You know, I think you had an interview the other day where you were talking about, you know, now the ground's been cleared and the industry is not controlled by the sort of people that used to control it anymore. Now we can even have like whole new things like LGBTIQ shops. And I'm like, well, we had an LGBTIQ shop in 1996 in Canberra, which was in a very hostile environment. She was holding it down, you know, and
100%.
It's actually not anything new.
Yeah, great. So Marcel that works with us at the studio just asked, Cameo from Bali.
Oh yeah, Bali. So I got my little dog in September of 2019, which is like absolutely perfect timing. Here she is.
Oh, amazing. Hey Sarah, if you're there, come and say hi as well, please.
All right, here we go. Here's everybody. Hi.
Here we go. Here's the fam.
Hi. And Valley is just resplendent in she's got a new crochet outfit.
Nice.
Which has just been made by Crochet Pooch. So, yeah, dog walking is the order of the day in lockdown, that's for sure. And for me, I've got something to say about clientele. Like, most of the clientele that I've had over the years has been just amazing, but every now and then you do get a dodgy one.
Yep. Who's that loser?
Who's that?
That's me. You did these on me. That's getting those done. Yeah, that was I think that was towards the end of my time at Innovision.
Innovision, yeah, that's right.
No, it's been a pleasure to work with you over the years, Megan, and still to today.
Same. I'm absolutely rapt to be at Little Tokyo. I mean, when I was talking about, you know, tattooing getting exponentially better and better, I could never have imagined working in a place like Little Tokyo. It's just beyond.
Man, me either half the time, you know, me either, to be truthful. You know, what was, if people want to listen a little bit more about you as well, what was the podcast you did a year or so ago, a couple of years ago?
That was with Sarah Liberty. And she does a sort of feminist podcast. So she sort of hooked me in, just same sort of thing, to talk about women in tattooing. Gosh, I can't remember the name of the podcast. I can look it up and add it on later if you like.
Yeah, totally. But I remember in that podcast, because I remember seeing her getting tattooed in the shop, and she made a comment that like, oh, they've got the best bathroom. They've got aftershave and perfume in there, and I was like, yeah, you got it these days. It's nice. So.
Oh, look, I've had people coming out of that bathroom, especially, you know, over the last year, and they'd be going, that's the nearest thing to me going to a disco in the last year.
Hey, I love disco. That's no secret. So no, amazing stuff. Okay, so where do you see the state of tattooing go? I know we pretty much, you know, we touched on that before. Like, who knows what's ahead of us? So what do you want to do? You got any special projects you want to do, or like anything really, in general?
Really keep painting, keep tattooing. I think we have a couple of flash days coming up, and hopefully we'll do another exhibition at the end of the lockdown, because the last one was just such a great motivator for me to pull out some paintings. Yeah,
100%. Well, that's going to go in the group chat, the shop chat, in the next couple of days, our next art show.
Yeah, brilliant. And I'm quite excited. Just at the end of the financial year, I was like, oh, let me get myself a little end of financial year present. And I actually bought a cordless tattoo machine.
Oh, go you.
Yeah. Like,
what one did you get?
The Sol Nova.
Nice. So it's going to be, okay, what do you still use? Predominantly you use coils for lining, correct?
Yeah, I always use coils for lining. I've got one by Dean Reardon, which is really great, and my other daily driver is a couple of machines by Scott Sylvia, who
Yeah,
I
nice.
just really love them. I've just used them for years and years and absolutely
Yeah,
love them.
yeah,
And you introduced me to the swash brush. I've been using
yeah.
swash brush for years and years, and then
Yeah.
you sort of dragged me kicking and screaming into the modern age. So I think
remember you you were like, oh, these needles, I've got to use them. I said, hey, I'm going to Nepal. Give
yeah,
me all your old needles. And I used to
yeah,
take over bunches of needles and give them to the tattoo crew over there
yeah,
because it was so expensive for them. And so
yeah.
yeah, they went to good use.
It was a good move. It was a good move. And
Yeah,
all through my tattooing career, we've been saying, oh, if only we could get rid of these cords and have a cordless machine. And I'm like, wow,
yeah,
future is now. And watching all the
yeah.
younger guys using cordless machines, I'm like, oh, I've got to give this a go.
Yeah, it's good. But that's one of the best things of tattooing now. Like, there's no secrets.
Mm,
You can Google it. Like if
exactly.
I don't recommend it, but if you wanted to, you could learn to tattoo off YouTube these days. It's
Mm.
so the information exchange between artists is amazing, and yeah, we're on the right path.
I think that's been the number one biggest thing that I've observed happening. Just the
Yeah,
impact it had on tattooing it's out of this world. I mean, pre-internet tattooing, if someone walked in the shop and they said, look, I want a tattoo of a polar bear, I would literally get on my bicycle, go to the library, find some National Geographic with pictures of polar bears and use that as reference. It was
yep,
a different
yep.
world.
Yeah, totally. It's like, we're both from the same era, and it's been so nice to see the evolution of it,
Mm.
and yeah, still be inspired by it. So where can Megan, where can people contact you? What's the best way for them to get in touch
Look,
with you?
if you take a look at my Instagram, it's just at _Megan_Oliver_. So it's just basically
Yep,
Megan Oliver. You'll find it. And my email address is plastered all over that. So
yep.
just drop me
Well,
an email.
what we'll do at the end of all of this, I'm in the process of transitioning this onto like a solid platform, and we'll put that in all the notes under the show. So, all right,
So,
Megan, we'll call it quits for a night.
all right.
Thanks so
Thank you
much
so
to
much,
you.
Rhys. It's been really great chatting to you. And it's just been so nice listening to all the interviews. And like I said, it's really cheered me up and made me feel like, we're all still in touch and we're just on
Yeah, we
pause.
are. I think it's a cool thing. Like, me,
Mm.
I always go to extreme. So I think it's a good thing to just keep doing them. Tomorrow night we've got Danny Truong, he owns a shop in Culture, and Black Jade out in Western Sydney. So yeah, then we've got a few more really cool. Actually, Saturday we've got a double header. We've got like Tony Cohen on the first shift, and then afterwards I've got Melanie Milne, who's down in Melbourne but tattooed in
Nice.
Sydney for a long time. And yeah,
Yep.
we've got some cool stuff on the horizon. So yeah,
Amazing.
awesome. Thanks for being a part of it. I really
Great,
appreciate it. And
great work. Thank you so much,
yeah, we'll
Rhys.
see you soon. All right, thanks everyone.
Everybody, have
See
a
you
good
next
night.
time. Bye.
See you. Bye.